Hi, this is Cindy from Ideas Times 2, and this is my show and tell of my Desert Island Challenge from Nick the Booksmith. And you maybe have already seen my sister Betsy's video, also found at Ideas Times 2 on our YouTube channel. She got her journal done way before I did, and so you can check it out, and I think you should because it is awesome. So, if you don't know about the challenge, Nick the Booksmith challenged crafters to make a journal using very limited supplies. And I don't know about you, but I love my craft supplies. And the fact is, I'm kind of addicted to them. But we were allowed only to use 8 different things, and 4 of them were a given, and 4 things we could choose on our own. So of the givens, we could have glue. I'll be honest, this was not my first choice. I had wanted to use a glue stick because it dries faster, and I have really good quality glue sticks, but I was afraid I would run out before I finished the challenge, and since we were only allowed to have 1 glue, I decided to go with a big bottle. Our second given was a cutting utensil of some kind, and I used this medium pair of paper scissors. The blades are long enough I could cut paper, but they were short enough I could do a little cut work. And I also used the inside of the handle to get a uniform shape, making some of the little pockets in my book. Our third given was needle and thread, and I used this fairly large embroidery needle. And I used it obviously to sew my signatures together, but I also used it as a scoring tool and as my awl. And my thread is this waxed binder's thread. And I used it for some sewing and for making the closure for my my journal, and for little places here and there in my journal. I decided to go with this medium brown color so I'd have some contrast. And it worked pretty well. The fourth given was our paper, and I used coffee stained paper. And you're probably looking at this and seeing a lot of green. And I'll be honest, I did not dye this with green coffee, but I had a fortuitous accident while I was coffee staining some paper, and I'll explain that in a minute, but I just used kind of your standard messed up coffee stained paper. We were also allowed to have 4 items of our choice, and my first item is this beautiful paper, and I really love the color. I love the sepia tones of this print. It has 5 different images on it. And the second thing I really liked about this, and kind of what made me decide to use this paper, was the number of different texts on here, the different sizes, the different penmanship, the different fonts. And you can also see it has some grid marks on it. This paper was fantastic, and I used pretty much every darn little tiny piece of this paper. My second choice item was kind of the ubiquitous brown ink and a dauber that came along with it that Nick graciously allowed us to use. I'll be honest though, and hopefully this isn't cheating, but this is my second dauber. My original one disappeared one day when I was at work, and I'm guessing my cat, Lizzie Bennett, probably stole it. And in a couple of months, I am pretty sure I'll find it underneath my overstuffed reading chair, or maybe my love seat, hanging out down there with the 17 missing tubes of Burt's Bees lip balm that she also has stolen. Well, unless my house is haunted by a ghost with very chapped lips. I'm pretty sure Lizzie's the culprit. So there's my ink. My third item was your standard file folder, and I used a green one. And since I'm guessing when the ship we were on hit the iceberg, I was carrying a giant vat of coffee, which I probably wouldn't do since I don't drink the stuff. But considering everything else was coffee stained, I figured my file folder would be as well. And then when I dunked it in the coffee and set it out on the paper towels to start drying, it started bleeding and it got all over my coffee stained paper. And rather than throwing it out or starting over or freaking out, I decided to make some lemonade with that lemon. So this was my third item. My fourth item was my book cover. So here's my book. I found this cute little copy of Swiss Family Robinson, and I had never read the book before, even though my job is teaching the classics. It's not one that I've ever taken the time to read, but I loved the Disney movie when I was a kid, and you know, if I could have a treehouse like theirs, I would be one happy girl. So here's the cover, the spine, and the back. It's just the perfect size. I was able to use my scissors to cut off just this little bit, barely an inch I think, off the bottom of the pages, and the width was the perfect size. I didn't have to cut anything off the width. And the braid is just 3 strands of my thread, my wax thread. My cat, Lizzie Bennett, and I made this the other day, and we had so much fun. So much fun. Love to do that again. And I also made some little, very primitive beads and a little button on here. And I totally stole the idea for the paper beads from Hani. I was mesmerized by her video, and her journal is so beautiful. If you haven't seen her challenge video, you need to look at that. She's a master. And but I stole her bead idea, so thank you, Hani. And well, before I show you the inside of the book, the reason I chose the file folder is because I wanted to make a little folio, a little traveler's journal. I figure if I were on a cruise, and I was on a cruise and I had a journal with me, and if I were to be in a shipwreck, I would have had my journal. And I use one when I travel all the time, and always have since I was a kid. And I write down, you know, the weather and what I had to eat and where we went shopping and the sights that we saw and how I was feeling and reflecting on what I was feeling. So I figured if I was on a cruise, I would have one. So I decided to make it and made a little pocket here on the front with the little cut pieces and some images off of my scrapbooking paper, another little homemade button, and a couple of strands of my thread. And inside I have just a couple of little pockets with a card and a place for identification. 32 pages of coffee stained paper, and then 3 little pockets in the back. Nothing exciting, nothing too fancy, but a good place to write, which is what it's for. So there it is. And now my book. So my end papers are just some green coffee stained and file folder stained paper. I just thought this was so pretty, and I wish I knew how it happened, because I would love to make some more. It looks like marbled paper. I think it's so pretty. And I started off my first signature with just a collage with papers, some coffee stained papers, and then little snippets from my scrapbooking paper, and a little tuck spot. And I have quite a few naked pages or semi-naked pages, because I figure if I'm alone on a deserted island and I don't have any books to read, I would have to have a book to write. So this is has a lot of space for journaling. Here you see is a half of a stencil. I totally stole the idea from the homemade stencil from my sister Betsy, and I just cut this out of some of my coffee stained paper, and I use this motif throughout my book, including right there. And another collage. And a lot of my little collages are very similar in shape, and I did that on purpose because I wanted the shape to be kind of reminiscent of seaweeds or seagrasses, and maybe a little bit of flotsam and jetsam you might find on the beach or on the bed of the ocean. Here's a little envelope, and one of the flaps, there it is my sand dollar again. Never mind. And sand dollar, this little envelope just is a little trifold there. And I made the fleur-de-lis from the sand dollar stencil. It's a little belly band with some collaging, and then a tag with collage and a little pocket with a little notebook that I sewed together. And I'm going to be honest, underneath this tag is a very badly made hole. Those scissors were not made for cutting holes, let me tell you. So I just covered it up with a little bit of my file folder. Here's a little bag with an index card in it. And another little pocket with some cut pieces. And this is the actual stencil. And if you look closely, and probably don't even need to look that closely, you can see that it was very crudely hand cut. There's another little pocket with a collage and a little notebook that I made. I just thought this one turned out so cute. And a little flip. And this is the center of my first signature. And the hardest part I had with this challenge was sewing my signatures together. I just had a hard time keeping the papers all straight, and they kept sliding all over the place, and this hole on the top really got chewed up, and I really would love to fix that. So I have a little envelope inside the that pocket there with a little collage. I had initially intended to sew the, or not sew, glue this down, but I just thought the staining was too pretty to waste. There's another little card. And the other side to that bag with another index card made with a couple sheets of the green coffee stained paper glued together. And another belly band with a little notebook with coffee stained paper. And a tuck spot. And a little flap. And there's the other side of the sand dollar. And little paper tags and another envelope. And my second signature also started with the collage with a homemade button, a little half sheet, and a pocket with a tag in it. A couple sheets of paper glued together, but you can see on here really how bad of a job I did cutting that hole, and I really need to fix that. That's embarrassing. Another sand dollar and a little tag, an envelope with a collage, some more really dark coffee stained paper. I just love the colors. This one is slightly textured, even though I do think the markings on here look a little bit like a demented jack-o'-lantern. I love the colors. Another belly band with a tag. On this tag, I didn't even try to cut a circle in there. I just put another one of my little paper buttons on there and called it a good. called it good. There you go. A couple more little collages, and the other side of. I guess it's actually a new bag with a tag in it with another very badly made hole. And a collage. And a tuck spot with a little notebook. And there's the middle of the second signature. The little tuck spot. And another collage with my motif. And the other side of that bag, which is mysteriously empty. I have no idea where the paper that was in there disappeared. where it disappeared to. And there's that sand dollar again, and a tuck spot. And a faux envelope. And a little pocket with another note card there, and a pocket with a well, notebook. You can see on here very clearly the demarcation line of my green file folder. And just a little tag. And that's it. That's my book. And this is my first journal, my first junk journal. And I think it turned out pretty well. A couple things I would like to fix or clean up a little bit, you know, using some additional tools. But I really appreciate the challenge, Nick, because I'm not very confident with my crafting. And I am always second guessing myself and third guessing myself, but this challenge really made me stay focused, and using limited number of supplies, I couldn't, you know, I couldn't waste time just, you know, looking for other things to use or things to do. So it really forced me to focus and complete the challenge. So thank you, Nick, even though I do think you're slightly evil. If you guys have not seen my sister Betsy's video, check it out on our YouTube channel, Ideas x2. Her journal is absolutely the cutest little thing you've ever seen. And thank you all for sharing your videos with me, because over the last couple of days, as I've been grading papers, I've been watching your videos, and I'm just awed by your talent. You guys are fantastic. And thank you so much for watching my video and putting up with my ums and my ahs. Thank you so much. Have a great, great week.